Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind. Hello everyone, it's Thursday, it's 5 o'clock and it's Only Murders in My Mind with Liz Hedgecock.
Hello.
And Mike Jackson.
Good afternoon.
In the last episode I was talking about my trip to Rio de Janeiro, wasn't I? Was it the last episode?
Might have been the one before.
Might have been on before.
Oh, well, a funny
when we were on the language.
Yeah, funny story came
No, it was
to
last
mind.
episode because we got into talking about drink.
Ah, that was it, my caipirinhas, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, the funny story, it is funny, but in a black way, which you'd expect from me, I suppose. When I was there, my husband was working and he had one of his colleagues with him, and one day we had a day off. Well, they had a day off. Every day was a day off for me. And we went on a tour up into the rainforest. So we went quite high up.
Wow.
And we had a private car, and we had this man that drove us, and he used to call me Mrs. Dave, because that's my husband's name. And we actually went up to the statue of Christ the Redeemer. And he was going, "Come over here, Mrs. Dave, I take a picture of you." And I was going, "No, it's too near the edge." That's not the funny story. The funny story is when we were up in the rainforest, we stopped at this place, which is for viewing. It's like there's an area to pull in with your car, and there's a beautiful vista in front of you. Seemed to be miles up. And there was a family a little bit further along. So there was me, there was John, who was the colleague, and David, and then there was our driver. And this family, there was two ladies and a gentleman. And they were a little bit further down. And I thought, what are they doing? And all of a sudden, this plastic container gets opened. And they start scattering something. But the wind was blowing in the wrong direction.
Oh, dear.
So it blew towards us. But however, John was talking and he got a mouthful.
Oh.
And this lady came up and apologised and said that her dad had always wanted his ashes scattered where they were. And John was horrified that he's eaten part of this man, you know. Anyway, we met for dinner that night, and John came in. He'd been in the shower about 3 times after this episode. And he walked into the bar where I was having my caipirinha, just the one.
Just the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I started singing, "You gotta wash that man right out of your hair, you got." He didn't think it was funny.
No.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have been too chuffed personally.
No, he wasn't amused at all by the whole thing, but it was one of those, like, you know, those moments where it was quite amusing, but in a sad way.
Yeah. Have you seen The Big Lebowski?
Yes, yeah. Something like that happens there, doesn't it? Yes. So if you're listening to this, John, I do apologise, but at the time it really amused me.
It's funny, talking about ashes, I started watching a Netflix series, and you get to a certain age and you can't remember what day it is, let alone what you watched yesterday. But anyway,
it's not just me.
It's quite funny, and the premise of this, I'm only about episode 2. Premise of the story is that this chap dies, and it turns out he had 2 wives, 2 daughters, and that they kind of meet at the funeral, and they're completely different. And the 2 daughters get together and they decide that they need to agree where they're going to scatter Dad's ashes. And the one daughter says, "Well, I want to do it over there because Dad used to take me over there to play." And she points to a park, children's park. She said, "I want to scatter them in the sandpit, the children's sandpit." And the other daughter says, no, you can't do that. Children play in there." "Well, that's not a problem. That's where we buried the dog last week." I'm sorry about that. I just thought.
Oh, you two just carry on.
I know, we just do
Seems to be the way we go. Do you want a bit of upmarket?
Yes.
I know it's unusual for this podcast, but I thought we might try taking ourselves down that way. I am going off to Dunham Massey Village Hall on Saturday because we're doing a WI talk. We being
Excellent.
myself and a colleague of mine who is a poet, and he has written a book which I'll give you the details of it later. You can find it on Amazon. He's written a book called The 26, which is the 26 letters of the alphabet, and he's written a poem about each letter where the letter describes itself. and he's used 26 different poetry formats. Now, all sounds a bit dull, but there's some actually very good poems in there. And he's collared in a friend of his who's got a harpsichord.
Oh.
So we're taking this harpsichord to the village hall. So
As you do.
I've got a PowerPoint which has got some figures of these alphabet and the poems. David's going to read the poems out, and the other David is going to be playing this harpsichord. Now, he transports this harpsichord around. It is a beautiful instrument. Must be about 10 foot long. Looks like a grand piano.
Wow.
He gets it into his Volvo and takes it to all sorts of places.
A harpsichord in a Volvo.
Yes.
That'd be a book
That-
title,
that'd be a
wouldn't
book
it?
title.
Yeah.
So that's going to be in May. We're going to be performing for the Women's Institute.
Ah.
And nothing to do with ashes, nothing to do with anything in particular.
I bet they'll appreciate the harpsichord.
They would.
That just gives me a mental picture of the time I was up at IKEA watching staff from IKEA trying to get a settee into the back of a man's Volvo. And the staff going, "It's not going to go in, sir," and him going, "Try it upside down. Try it this way." Oh, it's like, and I was just killing myself laughing. I just thought it was hilarious. There was no way this settee was going to go into this Volvo, but he wouldn't be told.
Nowadays, what you would do is take a film of it and put it on YouTube.
You would.
You would.
Yeah, you would.
By the way,
exactly.
if anybody's interested, we'll get some new shorts on our YouTube channel.
Not involving any harpsichords.
Not involving
sadly.
any harpsichords. No.
Just a bit of fun.
Strange but true crime.
Yes.
Look out
yes,
for them.
Yes, we'll be popping up all over the place.
We
in
will
the
indeed.
Next,
There'll
the
be no
next few
escaping
months.
us. Yeah.
Well, we're having what I called a round robin today. We're talking about individual items or people or crimes, whatever, and the people, or the other two people that aren't reading it out, will be asking questions and for descriptions and generally having a go at it. So, shall I start?
Please
Shall
do.
I start? Right.
No.
Please do.
I'm my
See, nobody takes any notice of me. I always say the opposite thing to everybody else, and they ignore me, these two.
I'm going to
Who
talk.
said that? Sorry.
Why don't you go first, Carol?
I'm going to go first. So
Unless you want to go first, Liz.
No, it's okay. I think your idea was brilliant, Mike. Go on,
Right.
Carol.
I paid for this microphone. I'm going first.
I could have gone. I could have gone first, but Carol wouldn't let me. So, Carol, do you want to go first?
Do you
No, I
want to
don't wanna
toss a
go first.
coin?
I'll tell you what, Carol, you go first.
Okay. So my topic, or the person of my topic, is Val McDermid, who is one of my favoritist. Isn't that what Del Boy would say? Favoritist authors. A little bit about her background. She is 70 this year. Happy birthday, Val. I think it's in May. Not that I'm stalking her or anything.
Of course not.
She was born in Scotland, and no, it says 17 June. I've actually got it written down in front of me, and I've still said the wrong date. She went to Oxford, and the college that she went to, I think she was the first female who'd come from just an ordinary school to attend that particular college.
Because back in those days, it would have been possibly a secondary or grammar school, secondary modern school. I tell you what, if she went from a secondary modern school to
She did
Oxford,
well.
Would be
that's an
something.
achievement.
She did. She
Yeah.
did well. Yeah. And she studied English. She got a degree in English. She became famous because of her TV series from her books, Wire in the Blood.
Oh no, that's funny enough. That's a series I've never fancied watching.
You probably wouldn't like it. It's very gruesome in places.
Yeah,
Reason
I'm
I
a
did
gentle.
like it.
I'm a gentle soul, but I can understand why you'd like it, Carol.
Well, when you write your short fiction, you're not. Always killing people.
Yeah.
But I do it quickly.
Yeah, no, a lot of these are not quick deaths.
No.
And that's where I became I grew to know Val's work, because I watched Wire in the Blood, really liked it, and my Warrington Detective series are loosely based on the way she writes. That's the best way I can put it.
I was going to ask, actually, because I was reading up a bit about Val McDermid and thinking, yeah, she's very, into gruesome and gory. I think, I wonder if Carol's been influenced by this.
Yes, I was. And as I say, the series did make you wince at times. There was things in it that made you go, is that going to happen?
No.
Torture scenes and things
Ah.
like that. Yeah.
Oh, no, I
So-
was watching something earlier and I was just like, oh, no.
See, the thing is,
it wasn't that bad.
I don't like horror films, but I can stand horror pieces in crime fiction.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Well, I suppose with your background as a nurse, Carol, the horror pieces in murders are real in a way, whereas horror, as in Stephen King type horror, is all sort of supernatural
Yes,
and
yeah. It's
monsters
not
under
real.
the bed and
You
creepy
hope, you hope it's not real.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's where I came to know. There is another series on television. I think there's been 2 series that Karen Perry, another one of her detectives, who again I absolutely love. These aren't gruesome; these are cold cases.
Oh right.
And Karen is a DCI, and she's only got a small team. There's only another 2 or 3 of them in her. Basically, she's in a store cupboard somewhere. It's that. I think her boss is put her there to keep her out of the way because she causes problems. But that's a really good series.
So what's that one called?
The Karen Perry series.
It's not on TV.
It is on TV. It's on the BBC. She's also, her first book was a Lindsay Gordon. Now Val went into journalism, and a couple of her series are journalists. They're female journalists, and the Lindsay Gordon is a reporter, and then she's got Kate Brannigan. She's a private investigator. And there's also a character called, I'm trying to find her now. Can't find that one. But there's two reporters in a series. One is an investigative reporter, and the other one is a reporter, sort of thing. And the Tony Hill and Carol Jordan series, he is a clinical psychologist, and he's very good. Again, like a brilliant person who couldn't boil an egg, carries all his papers around in a blue paper bag, that type of person. And they click. They just click, and they can solve cases. And the workings of his mind when he's looking at these characters, it's like people say to him, if you hadn't been a clinical psychologist, you'd have been a serial killer. Because of the way his mind works. But one of the characters in the baddies in her Tony Hill and Carol Jordan books is a bloke called Jacko Vance, and he's in it a couple of times, and he is horrendous. He is a really violent killer, but he's a celebrity, and he wins around all these pretty girls and arranges to meet them because he's going to have them on the show, but you mustn't tell your mum. That type of thing. And interestingly enough, she based him on Jimmy Savile.
Oh.
She interviewed Jimmy Savile, so he's based on Jimmy Savile. The other thing I found interesting about Val is in August 2022, so quite recent, it's reported that the estate of Agatha Christie threatened legal action on the publishers if they referred to Val as the Queen of Crimes, because it's copyrighted to Agatha Christie.
Oh,
did you know that?
I find that you imagine just how. I mean, the words "Queen of Crime." Surely you can't copyright.
Oh, you can copyright all sorts
anything,
of things.
Yeah.
Because I have heard a call that. But
yes.
Obviously, they wanted to put it on a book that was coming out, and the Christie estate challenged them and said, "We will take you to court. We will sue you if that's the case."
So did anything happen? Did they go ahead?
That's
or did
all.
They drop it?
That's all I knew. But I've seen Val McDermid at the Edinburgh Book Festival being interviewed, and she was really good to listen to. And a couple of the things that she said to the person that was interviewing her was, now she's got a group of knowledgeable friends around her, sort of professors in psychology, professors in human anatomy, all this sort of thing. And one guy she was talking to told her about the formula for an explosive that he'd been working on, and then said to her, "But you mustn't put it in your book because basically you're giving people a recipe for this explosive." So that was okay. She realised that. Another lady who worked in pathology had found a way of pinning down DNA by something taken out of the eye. And she put this in one of her books before this woman had a chance to publish it in a medical journal. She wasn't pleased.
No, I bet she wasn't.
But
But then again, if you know that you're talking to a writer,
Yeah, you would
you-
think
Oh.
you keep still.
you've got to be careful what you tell them.
I suspect this was over a few whiskies, and they were both a little bit, let me sell you this.
Mm.
So yes, I really enjoy writing, and I shamelessly will say that I have copied her style in my Warrington Detective books to some degree, and it's funny that you should notice that.
Well, I was just thinking, gore and torture
gore
and
blood
whatnot.
and
Yeah.
torture, yeah.
Yes. Well,
And-
I
and
wouldn't
if you-
say I edit your books from behind the sofa, but
Yeah.
I have moments where I'm like, oh, Carol.
Yes, like a few people do that.
Mm.
And if you look in the show notes for today's show on our YouTube channel, you will find a link to Carol's books
Yeah.
Yep.
Indeed.
on Amazon.
Yes.
Yep. So you can read them, and
You can
It's funny
compare
'cause,
and contrast.
when I've done talks for WIs and ladies groups and things, some people have actually said to me, "Oh, I don't like gory murder mysteries," and I've said to them, "Well, don't read mine because they might give you nightmares." I don't go, "Oh, they're not that bad just for a sale." I don't want people, getting halfway through and going, "Oh, I can't read any more of this. It's horrible." What's your round robin?
Right. Well, more book news.
Yay!
Yay! I have. It's not been announced yet, so you hear it first. But I have publication dates through for my Sherlock and Jack series, which is being
right.
republished. So the pre-orders are going to start late April,
Right,
and
not long.
then it'll go through, I think, May and June.
They'll be actually be able to get
So
hold of them.
yes, Q2 of this year.
Excellent.
So yes, they'll be coming out with
Congratulations.
shiny new covers. So I'll be pleased to see them. I mean, the paperbacks are still around. It's the ebooks that are being republished.
Right.
But yes, it'd be nice to have them back out there because I know lots of people reading ebooks. So
Yeah.
And this is through
yes.
your publisher, isn't it?
it is indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, must put a link both in the show notes on the
Yes,
blog.
indeed.
Let's make
Well,
sure that people can.
by the time
follow
this
it through.
episode comes out, then it could, the
could be
first one
links.
could well be up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yes,
So-
we'll be talking covers, I think, fairly soon, which is quite exciting.
So do you fall out over covers ever?
I don't think I have. No,
No.
no.
How much say do you? Now that you've got for this series of books, you've got a publisher.
Mm.
How much say do they have in the book cover compared to how much input do you have? Do they have the final word?
I think they probably do have the final word because I mean, they've got to produce something that looks commercial and also that fits with the rest of their books. So, it's. I mean, that said, with the Mrs. Hudson books, they kind of based it on the cover I had already, but the figures seemed a bit out of balance. So she looked like the 50-foot Attack of the 50-foot Mrs. Hudson.
Right.
And I kind of said, I'm not sure about the perspective on this one. And they did, they did sort it. And it's also, I mean, when it's historical fiction, it's just difficult because, if it's like the 1890s and someone's got this massive crinoline, you're there going, they would never have worn that then.
Yeah.
I suppose the other thing too, because it's an ebook,
Mm.
then there's a difference between sorting a thumbnail type cover out compared to a cover of a published book or a
I mean,
paperback.
that's the thing. It's got to be legible in small, or at
Yes.
least be attractive in small, so enough to make you click on it and see
Yeah.
it in big. So yes. So I think we'll be having conversations about that.
So
coming up.
will they have the first run through of the covers, which they'll give to you to have a look at?
I assume so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember when we went to a writers' sort of forum thing, and one of the writers said a lot of her say gets taken away once they go to the publishers. They put a picture on one front of one of her books, and she said, "I'd never have picked that in a million years," but they went with it, and I think they changed the title on another one.
I suppose if you're going with a publisher, one would assume you've gone with them because they know how to sell books.
Yes, that's kind of the point,
So
isn't it?
therefore,
Yeah.
you would hope that they've got the
Yeah.
nous to know, well, this cover is
Yeah.
going to help to sell this book. One of the
Yeah.
reasons why you're
Yes.
with them. So what is this series? Jack and
Sherlock.
Jack
So
and
it's
Sherlock.
another one of my Sherlocky spin-offs. Because when we were talking about Sherlock and you were saying about, will you write any more Sherlock books? And I was thinking, I want to tell you about this, but I can't. I know it's a reissue, but it kind of feels like they're getting a new lease of life. So that's kind of cool.
So who's Jack?
Jack is Jack Hargreaves, who is a young woman who is masquerading as a man for basically to get by in 1890s London. And she takes a job with a character called Fingers Malloy.
Oh, good old Fingers.
Exactly. Yeah, he talks very like that.
Yeah, I thought he might. Yeah.
That was some
I know
pears.
Fingers, mate of mine.
Pears,
Lovely
pears.
fella. You knew more dad.
Well, you didn't come from that far away from where I did, I don't think, originally.
No.
So you're South. Are you South London?
No, Kent.
Kent. Well,
Yeah.
I'm North Kent.
Yes.
So yeah. There you go. So Fingers is a professional, a light-fingered professional, and Jack doesn't realise that. Yes, exactly. Jack kind of goes along with it for a bit, and then she realises that they're stealing to order for somebody, and they're stealing some really weird stuff. And the other thing you need to know about Fingers is he's got a time machine.
Of course he has.
Well,
yeah.
it just seems
Presumably a
reasonable.
workable time machine.
Of course it works. I mean, what's the
Right.
point of a time machine that doesn't work?
That's true.
I've got one of them. It's called a clock. No.
So does he use this time machine to steal things from the past?
Might do, might not do.
Oh, the
Right.
future.
So anyway, all of this is getting a bit too much for Jack. And the other thing is that someone else is on Fingers' tail. And you can probably guess who that is.
Yeah.
So yes, Jack bumps into Sherlock Holmes, and that's where the start of their story begins.
And are you allowed by your publishers to read a little bit of one of these books?
Don't see a problem with that.
Could you for us?
I could do. Okay. Would you like a bit from the first one or a bit from the last one?
Yes, please.
I would say the first one.
Yes, I would
Okay.
too.
Because you know what? You know what you've told me in the past about buying a book halfway through a series.
Indeed, this is true. Okay, so this is the bit where Jack encounters the time machine. So Fingers is going to show her how it works because they're going to be doing a job with it. Yes. So the time machine stood on a gleaming steel trolley concealed by a fringed velvet cloth. I removed the cloth. So what do all the dials... Watch out! Yelled Fingers and crumpled into laughter when I jumped back. Sorry, Jack, couldn't resist. Well, show me how to work it, I said, rather huffily. Fingers wiped his eyes with a large handkerchief. It's as easy as pie. See the big dial marked time? I do. The dial was set round with inscriptions and 2 arrows, one pointing back and one forward. The inscriptions went from 5 years to 1, dwindled to 6 months, 3 months, 1 week, down to 5 minutes, and then forward to 5 years again. It's got a big dial, this time machine. Well, you set it, grab the 2 wires, and off you go. I could not believe it was so simple. Yet I had seen Fingers materialise with my own eyes. Come on, Jack, try it. It's 1:30 now. Set the dial to 10 minutes in the future. My palm was damp as I touched the dial and clicked it forward 2 notches. Don't worry, I'll come with you. But how can we both... I grab you, you grab the wires. Will that work? Should do. Usually anything I'm touching comes back with me. So you never done this before? Well, never had the chance. Old Snell won't have anything to do with the thankless contraption, as he calls it. Fingers ran a hand along the top of the machine. All right, but we're coming straight back. Oh, yes. Now, I'll stand behind. I waited, but felt nothing. Are you still there? When I looked round, Fingers had stepped away. I hadn't thought of this, he said gruffly. Of what? Well, I'm going to have to lay hands on you. Oh. Well, where were you planning to grab me? It's round the waist, all right. I suppose so. Slowly, Fingers Morlow's arms appeared and his hands clasped together in front of my waistband. You're barely touching me. Well, it's awkward, touching a young... I grasped the wires. I swallowed the excellent lunch was in danger of reappearing. It wasn't so bad. The Ormolu clock said it was 20 minutes to 2. Further you go, the worse it is, muttered Fingers, snatching his hands away as if I were a hot stove. How far will we go when I'm helping you with this small matter? Fingers frowned. 3 months, I reckon. That'll make your guts do somersaults. And I'll leave it there.
Oh, nice.
Have you? I think I've talked about this before. One of my favourite authors is Jodie Taylor.
Oh, yes.
And the
St.
Time
Mary's?
Police. Yes,
Yeah.
St. Mary's and the Time Police.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost, in a way, sort of a follow-on from that, because lots of that, according to Jodie Taylor in her books, did happen, this time travel. Everybody was doing it. They were all going back into the past and pinching sphinxes and all sorts.
Yeah.
And to the point that history was getting turned upside down.
Mm.
So that's why the Time Police come in, because they track down anybody who is illegally using time travel. But, you can almost see something like Jack and Fingers as those early experimenters of time travel.
Yeah.
Did it actually say how he came across this time machine?
Ah, well, he's got a scientist friend, you see, who supplied it, and that's also the person he's stealing to order for.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a whole load of mystery beyond it. But, I mean, the kind of time travel-y stuff is very much just the first book. But throughout the books, Jack gets to know more about her past, and she gets to know Sherlock Holmes better. And she helps him in a lot of ways because she gets to know Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson really well. And sometimes she can help them when they won't help themselves.
Right.
So.
Is Fingers in it? Or is he just in book one?
Oh no, Fingers is in
Fingers
all
are
of them.
either.
Yeah, can't do it without Fingers.
Yeah. So, have they finished at a certain point, or, excuse me, is it a series that you could add to quite easily?
Oh, well, I did stop it at book 3 because, again, it's that one. The strap line for it is Sherlock Holmes is dead.
Oh, right.
Apparently. So it kind of covers Sherlock Holmes coming back. And I just got them to the point where, Sherlock Holmes is going to walk back into Watson's life. But when I was rereading them to make sure they were fine before I sent them off to the publisher, I was thinking, you know what, I could definitely do more of these. So depending on how they go, maybe there is scope for some more of them.
Yeah,
so
if there's
it's a
the
3-book
public like
series
them.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Excellent.
we shall see.
Yes.
So
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
So May and June, watch out for them.
Yeah. And keep an eye on the blog, because
We
we will
will.
be
Promoting them.
promoting them, letting you have more information about them.
Thank you. So what are you talking about today, Mike?
Well, I thought, as we're doing this sort of anything goes, I would tell you about the dancing plague of 1518.
Oh, there you go.
That sounds interesting.
Jazz hands.
I have to start with an apology to Carol, because while there were some deaths, there were no murders.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
So
Don't have a murder every time.
We
Unless
don't?
you're Carol.
I think Carol does.
Yeah. Well, she's supplying them all.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this story starts in 1518, in the summer of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg. Back then, it was part of the Holy Roman Empire, and now it's tucked away in modern France. Just imagine it: the air's hot, streets are dusty, and the people, well, they're worn out. Famine swept through the place. Disease isn't far behind. And everyone's living under the weight of religious superstition and a fair bit of political chaos. You could say that life's hard. And then something odd happens. One July morning, a woman called Frau Trofu steps into the street. Nothing strange about that, just an ordinary woman. But then she starts dancing. Not a jig, not a quick shuffle, but really wild dancing. And she dances, and she dances, and she doesn't stop. At first, people just stared, probably thought she was drunk or maybe a bit too much sun, and they just laughed, probably. But the hours tick by, the sun moves across the sky, and she's still going. No music, no party, just this woman spinning, swaying, stomping her feet into the ground like she's caught in some sort of invisible rhythm. And the next day, she's still dancing. By the end of the week, 30-odd people have joined her. Men and women, and they're all dancing. And none of them looking as though they're enjoying it. There isn't a festival, it's something else. Something that nobody understands. Now imagine you there. You wake up one morning, look out the window, and the street's full of dancers. Eyes glazed, feet bleeding, bodies trembling, but they can't stop.
Ew.
Some are collapsing from exhaustion. And so the story goes, some die. Heart attacks, strokes, that sort of thing. And just sheer overexertion. Now, you'd think that the authorities would get some help in. Maybe, the norm back then is you bring a priest in, something like that. Let's bring the priest in. Or maybe a doctor. But no, the city leaders decide the best way to fix it is more dancing. I know, it sounds a bit daft, doesn't it? So they set up this stage, they hire some musicians, they clear out the marketplace and say, right, off you go, everybody, dance it out. And they thought it was a sickness of the body and that the dancers just needed to keep moving until the plague worked its way out. Didn't work. In fact, more people join in. And by the end of the month, estimates say there are about 400 people dancing uncontrollably. Nobody really knows the final number. Some dance for days, some for weeks. And all of them seem to have no choice. You might wonder what was going on, and there were a few theories going around. One of the more poetic ones, that it was mass hysteria, or what's now called mass psychogenic illness. The idea that these people are under some sort of extreme psychological pressure, maybe from starvation, disease, fear of the wrath of God, and their minds just snapped. They weren't mad exactly, but they broke together, and their stress found its way out through dancing. A kind of collective trauma response. Another theory is ergo poisoning. Apparently ergo is a nasty little fungus that grows on damp rye and can cause hallucinations and convulsions.
So it's kind of thing that would grow on bread and stuff like that.
Yeah. Apparently it's linked to the Salem witch trials.
Oh, right, okay.
But the thing is, ergo doesn't really make you dance in time with others. It makes you sick and you might writhe around in pain, but you don't keep rhythm with it as such. And then there's the religious angle, which there always has to be back in those days. Then people believed in saints and curses and miracles, and there was one particular saint, Saint Avitus.
Oh, St. Vitus.
Yes, who was thought to punish sinners by making them dance uncontrollably. So it's possible people believed they'd been cursed, and that belief itself may have fueled the dancing. Mind over matter in the strangest, most haunting way. Anyway, eventually the authorities changed track. They loaded all the dancers into carts and sent them off to a shrine dedicated to St. Vitus up in the mountains. And there they prayed, gave offerings, and were reportedly cured. Just like that, the strange dance began to fade away. And life carried on as nothing had happened. There's never been a definitive explanation, and apparently there are other small dance manias in Europe around the same time, but nothing quite like this one in Strasbourg. And it just remains one of history's weirdest, most unsettling events. The kind of thing that sounds like it belongs in a horror novel, but it's all written down in the record, so it all happened. So the next time somebody says to you they danced like nobody was watching, just remember Strasbourg, where they danced like they couldn't stop and everybody was watching them.
I've never heard of that.
No. Well, I like to please.
Really strange.
Weird. Yeah.
I mean, if it was house, they'd be looking for environmental causes in the water and the drains.
So I was just having a quick look while you were talking, and a lot of these outbreaks kind of were along the course of the same river.
Oh, right.
So I don't know if it was something in the water, perhaps.
Say that, don't. Yeah, so St. Vitus dance is Sinium's chorea. You've heard of Huntington's chorea.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
this is a different type, but it's a rare neurological disorder that causes rapid, uncoordinated, jerking movements, usually affecting the hands, face, and feet. And I have heard of St. Vitus dance, but they wouldn't have got better. It doesn't sound like the same thing.
No. I think the strangest thing is that when you think it happened in 1518, where there's so much sort of myth and everything around and sort of religious beliefs, it must have scared the living daylights out of people, mustn't it? Just weird. Yeah. So I thought I'd throw in a bit of weird.
Oh yeah.
I like
always
ready for
Something like a bit of weird.
You hear of these things, though. You hear of like outbreaks of peculiar things, don't you, going back in time.
And it's not as though sort of they were, you hear about these cults sometimes where people's minds have been taken over, sort of thing. They've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
And this just seems to be one woman who started, and then others joined in.
I mean,
I think the authorities didn't know how by setting up a band.
No. I mean, the thing about hysteria, it's like when you get lots of people fainting and all that sort of thing. That is a proven psychological fact, but not dancing.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'd be interested to know what you think, because this is a new format we're playing around with. So today you've had 3 very different ideas, stories from each of us. So we're gonna experiment with this one for a while. So do let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And talking about strange but true, we have a series of shorts on YouTube, on the channel that you find our podcast, and they're all about strange but true crimes. Some very, very weird crimes that have happened in the past. Strange but true. So do have a look at those. And we're also now on Apple Podcasts, thanks to John. So you can't get away from us. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube.
Spreading.
We're
spreading
everywhere.
Yeah, just like that dance.
Yes, like a dance epidemic.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so...
This is going to be called the Podcast Plague of 2025.
Yes, you can't get away from us. So yeah, brilliant. Really enjoy these. Actually, they're just a little bit different than what we normally do.
Well, you've had Fingers Malone, Dancing Plague, and
Val.
Val.
A bit of background about Val. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it, and as I say, you've got your opportunity to voice your opinion, and we'll leave it there. So goodbye, Liz.
Bye.
Goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Carol. Goodbye, Liz.
And we'll see you all next. Well, we won't see you, but we'll.
You'll be in our minds.
We'll be here again this time next week. You will be in our minds. Okay, bye for now. You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.